is Owen, and with the help of my fellow colleagues, Jennifer and Chris, we are going to be looking over the many issues that face marginalized groups and how many of those issues are often disregarded or not addressed in the proper manner by our local and federal governments. I will specifically be discussing the issue of climate inequality within the area of Newark. The Climates of Inequality Project is a project that involves many communities around the country, including the city of Newark. On their website, Newark has their own article that outlines the issues, the roots, and the potential solutions that could be surfaced to the government if they were to take on an operation that would be able to solve these inequalities. The problem is primarily located in the Ironbound, in which there exists 200 brownfields, which in other words are contaminated sites that are dangerous to many of the residential areas that are within close proximity. And there is a facility that processes sewage from 3 million homes, and more than 14,000 trucks pass through daily through this community, thus making the area a toxic environment for many of the residents within the area. With the Ironbound being predominantly made up of African Americans, immigrants, and non-native English speakers, there is a lot of emphasis on having this issue being resolved, as it affects many marginalized groups that don't really have much of a political sway. And with little government intervention, it is easy for these issues to worsen and for the environment of the Ironbound and Newark to worsen, and further intoxicating those residents that live within the area. And that forces a lot of people to have to take matters into their own hands. Now, there are many ways to advocate for an issue of this nature, especially when you feel as if your voice isn't being heard, no matter what you do. Zeppelito decides, using his talent as an artist, to create artwork that furthers a message that he would like to be seen by the government and action to be taken by fellow community members to create an effort that would have more political sway in regards to addressing the issues of the climate crisis within Newark. Now, on McCarter Highway, you can notice his work labeled "We Are Nature" along the highway, and you could see it as you drive by. And it is the message primarily given by the piece is to express positivity in regards to nature and the relationship between humans and nature and the globe in general. And it further emphasizes that point that we need to come together in issues like this to help save our planet, as well as save us as a species. Now, we could also look at the work of Ana Baptista, a community advocate who is from the Ironbound and has routinely helped immigrant families that reside in Newark, and by helping them with giving them supplies and helping them sustain life in these cruel living environments that are given way by governments that allow for these factories to be made so close to these residential areas. With more on the issue of queer rights in Newark, here is Jennifer.
Thank you, Owen. So as we know, Newark is a diverse city, but one group that fought in being recognized were the LGBTQ plus people, also known as queer. So Newark's queer history took place in local bars such as Murphy's Tavern, the Hub, and the Latin Quarter. People would ask for these bars to be shut down because they were suspicious of the acts that were going on inside. So the New Jersey Alcoholic Beverage Commission, also known as in abbreviations ABC, had sent agents to spy on these men and women, and if they saw any perverted acts going on, which was basically men touching men or women touching women or dancing with each other, they would order for these bars to be shut down. And in general, bars are an escape place for anyone, where they go after a long day, a stressful day. They just go there to relax, and they try to take that away from the queer people. Not only that, but bars served as a resourceful spot for queer people to learn or be informed of how to prevent AIDS. Now, AIDS was also known as being a gay disease because the majority of people who had it or who were infected were gay people. So in a video titled Reagan Administration's Chilling Response to the AIDS Crisis, you could hear how the White House took AIDS as a joke. And even though they saw the cases that were rising, and they didn't do anything about it because it wasn't affecting them, it was only affecting the gay people. So it just goes to show how ignorant society was back then when it came to queer people's health. And an example was that it affected Newark's, or in general, young queer people's lives. And an example was a girl named Zakiya Gunn in Newark. She was a 15-year-old African-American lesbian who was walking home with her friend. And when two guys approached them and basically, wanted something with Zakiya, she rejected it and said that she was not interested because she was lesbian. And he stopped her for that and left her there to die. So this made New Yorkers demand that civic leaders pay attention to how the dangers that queer people faced. So in an article from Our History, It's About Time, it explains how the gays and lesbians in Newark were basically stuck because they wanted to do something for Zakiya Gunn, but they were scared that they were going to lose their jobs. So it just goes to show how ignorant people are, and that queer people shouldn't be scared, and they deserve rights, the same rights that anyone gets. So now all this reflects how dismissive the government can be when it comes to the people they are meant to serve. More on this from Chris.
The government has chosen to not supply Newark residents with clean water. It has chosen to ignore all the water crises in favor of wasting public funds and in favor of endangering all the children. In the past year alone, an investigation by the New York Times based on dozens and dozens of interviews and hundreds of pages of public records reveals the blunders of all the levels of government in safeguarding Newark's water infrastructure. City officials brushed aside warnings and allowed the system to deteriorate, which state and federal regulators often do not intervene forcefully enough to help prevent the crisis. A quote here states that clearly there has been some systematic failure, says Eric Olson, a senator director at the Newark Resource Defense Council, an environmental group that has sued the city over the lead levels. Residents of Newark are the ones harmed by the top-to-bottom failures of the government. In fact, the crisis has grown in recent weeks. Officials have turned on one another in an apparent effort to shift blame. In an interview, Mayor Baraka defended his performance and lashed out at the federal environmental officials, saying that they had repeatedly refused to give the city money to pay for new pipes and bottled water. He stated, quote, "We have been getting no love from them, from that place at all," Mr. Baraka said, adding that he was not criticizing the federal scientists on the ground in Newark. Mayor Baraka also defended his decision to appoint Kareem Adeem as acting director of the water department in November, overseeing a system that provides water to 400,000 people in the city and surrounding communities. In 2011, Mr. Adeem was released from federal prison after serving 4 years for conspiracy to sell 5 kilograms of cocaine, according to court records. Mr. Adeem, who had worked lower-level jobs in the department before prison, received the $130,000 a year position, but does not have a college degree. He was a deputy director of the department before becoming an acting director. Quote, His knowledge of this stuff is unparalleled, Mr. Baraka said. There is no one else in the city who has the level of information, and I have full confidence that he knows what he's doing. For his part, Mr. Abdim seemed like he and his team were working hard to address the crisis. He stated, quote, "Early in my life, I had made some bad choices," he said. "I got a second chance, and I am going to take full advantage of my second chance, helping this city that I love." End quote.